Welcome aspiring data scientists and welcome future Python programmers. This is our last course about lists. In the previous class, we again worked with lists, but we also learned the very important principles of subsetting and zero indexing. Furthermore, we already know how we can select a range of elements within a list. The key topics of today, though, is how we can change or add multiple elements in a list, how we can delete or copy them, and in the end, how we can sum up elements of a list to a new total. So, how can we change elements within a list? To do this, we basically have to access the list directly. We can do this by defining the to be accessed index number on the left hand side of our equal sign. So we basically tell Python, okay, we have here our list L12, then we choose for index number 0, which has to be changed, and then we say, okay, we address a new value to it, which is in this case 100. So if you want to change an element in a list, first define what list to be changed, afterwards define what index number to be changed, and then through using the equal sign, you address the new number, and in this case it would be 100. If we look at the result now, we can see we have exactly the same lists. The only difference is that the first element was changed from 1 to 100. Now, obviously we can do this also for multiple elements. We do this more or less exactly the same approach like on the last slide, and then if we want to add more elements, we have to define a range first. So number 1, we choose our list that we want to change. It's L12. Second, we choose the elements that we actually want to change, and in this it would be index number 4 until the end, because the right hand side of the double point is empty. And then we use the equal sign to address our two new values. In this case, we have to put it in square brackets, and it would be the string x and the string y. And we separate each element like we do it in lists with a comma. So now if we look at our result, the first list had as the last two elements BC, and now through our changing application, we have now two different elements in the end, which would be x and y. So we can also add multiple elements to a list, and we can again use the plus operator for that. First, we want to start in a new list, so we create the new list L12_ext. Now in this list, we store the old list plus two new elements in the list. And we do this again by defining first the square brackets and then our two strings, and separate those two strings with a comma. So we have here our first list and here our second list with D and E added in the end of the list. We can also delete elements. Imagine you created already a list, but you would like to delete some elements of it because you, for example, have to update it, or it's just not up to date anymore and you want to delete certain elements because they are not existent anymore. We know already the del function for that, and we can apply the del function here again. So first, we write the del function to tell Python that we want to delete a certain element, or maybe even list. Then we define what kind of list we would like to delete, and we don't want to delete the whole list. We only want to delete certain elements within that list. So in our case, we want to delete the two last elements from our lists, which would be D and E. So first we call del function onto our list L1_ext, and then we define our range as the last two elements with a starting point of index number -2 until the end of the list. If we print it out, we can see that we have the list without the last two elements now. Deleting elements from a list can be also done in a different way. Rather than deleting or searching first the index number and deleting through the index number, you can also just search for a certain element within that list, and through the .remove method you can exactly delete this element. So in our example down here, we want to delete element 2. So please don't forget, it's not index number 2, it's element 2. So first, of course, we want to delete something from our list L12. Then we apply .remove, and in normal brackets, not square brackets, we define which element has to be deleted. In our example, it is 2. So if we print out the result, we can see that the 2 is now missing from our list. The .remove method can be very useful if you don't actually know the index numbers or you're too lazy to search for it, but you know what kind of element is stored in the list and you want to delete exactly this element. Now, finally, we can also copy lists into lists and create new lists out of it. In our example number 1, we just create the new list by storing our old L12 list inside. If we print it out, we get the same list as always. Now, afterwards, we want to change the last element in that number. So we call for index number 5 and address a new value to it, which would be Z in this example. And in the end, we print out our old list, and you can see that C changed to Z. And that is a problem because we didn't print out our new underscore list. We print out L12 list. And this list should not contain, at least to our logic, Z. So Python automatically updated even the old list. If you don't want that to appear, you can choose option number 2, where you apply the list function to our L12 list first. And after that, we do the same process. We change index number 5 to Z, so C to Z. But in the end, if we print out L12, we can see that the old list is still the same. It may not seem very important for now, but later on, if you work with many different lists and Python just updates all of them automatically in the background, it is often easier for you to apply the list function so your lists stay the same, or at least you keep an overview about which lists can stay the same. So if we want to summarize or sum up individual elements and sum up them together to a new, let's say, total, we can easily do this by first creating a new variable, which is total, and then we add the first element, the second element, and the third element together. We just do that by calling first the list name and afterwards the index number of our desired element. If we print it out, we get our new total, which is in this case 6. The learning goals that we have achieved for lists are adding elements to lists, subsetting and zero indexing, how we can select a range in a list. Then we did changing, adding, deleting, and copying of multiple values or elements. And in the end, how we can sum up individual elements to a new total. Congratulations! You have finished another course of the Introduction to Python course, and we are looking forward to see you in the next video. Goodbye.